The moment my mom's friend leaned closer, lowering her voice until the noise of the afternoon faded, my chest tightened with a fear I didn't yet understand, because what she was really saying wasn't a threat or a tease, but a challenge to everything I believed I was capable of carrying. Sunlight poured through the open windows of our modest living room, dust floating like tiny constellations, and in that ordinary daytime glow, my ordinary life cracked open. I was tired of being fragile, tired of being the quiet one everyone tiptoed around, and in that instant I sensed that something irreversible was about to begin. Before the story pulls you any deeper, take a second and ask yourself something simple. Do you believe people deserve kindness and second chances, especially when life has knocked them flat? If you do, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel Kindness Touch. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Her name was Rania Halim, and she had been my mother's closest friend since before I was born. To me, she was always the woman with firm posture and gentle eyes, the one who brought homemade bread and stayed long after sunset, helping with dishes and listening more than she spoke. That afternoon, she wasn't visiting for tea. She had come because my mother had finally admitted that I was stuck, not just between jobs or dreams, but inside myself. At 21, I had already mastered the art of shrinking, of avoiding risk, of convincing myself that disappointment was safer than effort. The daylight made everything feel exposed, as if there were no shadows left to hide in. Rania didn't lecture me or scold me. She simply moved closer, not invading my space but narrowing the distance enough that I had to meet her eyes. She told me, calmly and without drama, that she wanted to see what I could handle, and what she meant was whether I could face discomfort without running away. There was no smile, no raised voice, just an unwavering belief that I was more than my fear. In that moment, I felt small and seen at the same time, which is a dangerous combination because it leaves no room for excuses. My struggle hadn't started that day. It had begun years earlier when my father left quietly one morning and never came back, leaving behind unanswered questions and a home that felt lighter and heavier all at once. I learned early to avoid becoming a burden, to be agreeable, to keep my needs small. By the time I reached adulthood, fear had become a habit. I avoided challenges, told myself I wasn't ready, and hid behind politeness. My mother worried in silence, and Rania, watching from the edges of our lives, finally decided silence was no longer kindness. What she proposed was simple on the surface and terrifying underneath. She ran a small daytime community center that offered skills training and volunteer programs, and she wanted me to commit to helping there every day for a month. Not as a favor, not as a visitor, but as someone responsible for real tasks and real people. The sun was high when she explained it, the room bright and unforgiving, and I felt exposed, like the world was asking me to stand up straight without leaning on excuses. Every instinct told me to say no, to retreat to the safety of my room and my routines, but something in her steady presence made refusal feel like betrayal of myself. The first day at the center was brutal in the most ordinary way. The building smelled of cleaning supplies and old paper, and the daylight streaming through the windows revealed every scuff on the floor. I was assigned simple duties, organizing supplies, assisting visitors, listening to stories that were heavier than mine. My hands shook as I worked, not because the tasks were difficult, but because they were visible. People noticed if I was late, if I forgot something, if I hesitated. Fear whispered constantly, telling me I would fail, that everyone could see my inadequacy in the bright, honest light of day. Rania didn't hover or rescue me. She watched from a distance, offering guidance only when necessary. When I made mistakes, she didn't soften the truth or shame me. She simply let the consequences teach me, and then showed me how to do better next time. The hardest part wasn't the work, it was the mirror it held up to my habits of avoidance. Each afternoon, exhausted and overwhelmed, I wanted to quit. Each evening, as the sun dipped and the day ended, I felt a strange pride for having stayed. The real test came halfway through the month, when a sudden staffing shortage meant I had to take on more responsibility than I felt ready for. The center was busy, voices overlapping, sunlight glaring off white walls, and for the first time, I was the one people looked to for answers. Panic surged, hot and familiar, threatening to shut me down. I remembered Rania's challenge, not as words but as a weight placed gently on my shoulders, and I realized this was what she meant. Handling something didn't mean doing it perfectly, it meant staying present when everything in you wanted to flee. I stumbled through that day, making decisions slowly, asking for help when I needed it, and admitting when I didn't know something. To my surprise, the world didn't collapse. People were patient. Problems were solved. The sun set, the center closed, and I walked home under a sky still glowing, feeling taller than I had that morning. For the first time, fear hadn't won simply because it showed up. As the weeks passed, the changes were subtle but profound. I stood straighter. I spoke more clearly. I stopped apologizing for existing. My mother noticed it in the way I entered rooms, and Rania noticed it in the way I no longer avoided eye contact. The daylight that once felt harsh now felt honest, revealing not just my flaws but my progress. I began to understand that kindness wasn't about shielding someone from difficulty, it was about believing they could endure it. Near the end of the month, Rania and I sat together in the center during a quiet afternoon, the sun warming the room. She didn't congratulate me or make a speech. She simply reminded me that this wasn't the end of the challenge, only the beginning of a different relationship with fear. I realized then that what she had leaned in to offer wasn't pressure or judgment, but trust. She had trusted me with responsibility before I trusted myself on the final day. As I completed my tasks and said goodbye to people who had become familiar faces, emotion caught me off guard. I wasn't just leaving a place, I was leaving a version of myself that believed weakness was permanent. The daylight outside seemed brighter, the world wider. I thanked Rania not with words, but by carrying myself with the quiet confidence she had insisted I could grow into. If this story is reaching something tender in you right now, if it reminds you of a moment when someone believed in you before you did, please take a moment to engage with this video. Your likes, comments, and shares help these stories find the hearts that need them most. And before this story ends, I have a special request for you. Comment below about a time when a challenge changed you, or when someone's tough kindness helped you grow. Today, when I think back to that afternoon bathed in sunlight, I no longer remember fear first. I remember possibility. I remember how one person's steady belief turned a quiet, shrinking life into something braver. And I hope that, wherever you are watching this, you feel that same invitation to stand a little taller in the light and discover what you too can handle.